6 days, one stranded ship, and $60 billion in stalled global trade. When the Suez Canal shut down in March 2021, the world discovered just how vulnerable its lifeblood really is. Now, an audacious $55 billion canal project in Israel is threatening to rewrite that story entirely. Decades ago, scientists even considered blasting this shortcut through the desert with hundreds of nuclear bombs. Nuclear was the idea then, a sign of how extreme the thinking became. What would drive a nation to such extremes? And could this canal actually make Egypt's crown jewel obsolete? Obsolete is the word that haunts the region. Let's uncover the shocking origins and high-stakes ambition that launched the Ben Gurion Canal from impossible idea to geopolitical game-changer. On March 23, 2021, a single gust of wind pushed the 400-meter Ever Given sideways, wedging it into the banks of the Suez Canal. For nearly a week, the world's busiest shortcut between Europe and Asia became an impassable wall of steel. More than 350 ships piled up at both ends, tankers, container giants, oil and gas carriers, forced to idle or reroute thousands of kilometers around Africa. Every day, an estimated $9 to $10 billion in global trade sat frozen. Factories from Germany to China ran short on parts. Oil prices swung wildly. The Suez Canal Authority, suddenly at the center of a worldwide crisis, scrambled to free the ship as the world watched. 6 days later, when the Ever Given finally budged, the backlog sent ripples through supply chains for months. The incident did not just cost billions. It exposed a single point of failure in the global economy. For shipping companies, governments, and planners, the message was clear. The world had been running on hope that nothing would go wrong. Now, every alternative, no matter how extreme, was back on the table. In the summer of 1963, a classified memorandum landed on the desk of scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. The idea was as bold as it was unsettling. Excavate a canal across Israel's Negev Desert, using underground nuclear explosions. The plan called for 520 nuclear devices, each buried along a 160-mile stretch of rocky desert, detonated in sequence to blast a sea-level channel from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Project Plowshare, the United States program devoted to so-called peaceful nuclear explosions, saw this as a test case for reshaping the Earth on a scale never attempted. The memo argued that conventional excavation was almost impossible, given the depth of rock and the sheer volume of earth to move. By using nuclear devices, the canal could be carved out in a fraction of the time at a fraction of the cost. But the hazards were staggering. Fallout from hundreds of nuclear detonations would poison the land for generations. The Partial Test Ban Treaty, signed that same year, banned most nuclear blasts outside laboratories. For a brief moment, the world's most powerful technology was seriously considered as a tool for digging a canal. The proposal was quietly shelved, but its declassification decades later revealed just how far planners were willing to go to break the Suez monopoly. Israeli planners have sketched out a canal that would dwarf even the Suez in scale and ambition. The blueprint calls for a waterway nearly 300 kilometers long, slicing from the Gulf of Aqaba to the Mediterranean. At 50 meters deep and 200 meters wide, it would be among the largest artificial channels on Earth, wide enough for the world's biggest container ships to pass side by side in both directions at the same time. This two-way traffic model is a direct answer to the bottlenecks that have plagued Suez for generations. Instead of single-file convoys and hours of waiting, ships would glide through on parallel lanes, cutting transit time and risk. The economic promise is staggering. Estimates suggest yearly revenues could top $6 billion, a windfall that would transform Israel's role in global trade. But the vision does not stop at shipping. The canal's banks are imagined as the backbone of a new economic corridor, lined with high-tech ports, logistics centers, and even entire cities rising from the desert. For Israeli development strategists, it is more than a canal. It is a chance to rewrite the map and secure a permanent place at the crossroads of continents. The Negev Desert does not give up its secrets easily. Unlike the Suez Canal's low, silty path, this route cuts across a landscape of ancient rock and relentless heat. Elevations soar up to 300 meters above sea level, forcing any canal to plow through hills and plateaus that would test even the world's largest machines. To keep the waterway at sea level, engineers would have to carve a trench nearly 300 kilometers long, deeper and wider than anything attempted before. That means excavating at least 5 to 7 billion cubic meters of rock and sand, a volume more than 20 times the material moved for Egypt's new Suez Canal. No single company or country has ever attempted earth-moving on this scale. The numbers are staggering. Estimates call for a workforce of around 300,000 engineers, technicians, and laborers, operating in shifts day and night for 5 years straight. The logistics alone would be a project within a project, building new roads, rail lines, worker camps, and supply depots just to keep the operation moving. Every day, crews would need to shift as much as 3 million cubic meters of material, the equivalent of running 10 of the world's largest mines side by side, non-stop. This is not just a construction job, it's a campaign against the desert itself. And if you want to see more stories about the world's most ambitious engineering feats and the chaos they leave in their wake, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Egypt's lifeblood runs through a 193-kilometer channel. Every year, the Suez Canal delivers nearly $10 billion straight into the Egyptian treasury. This single artery supports the national budget, pays for imported wheat, fuels the military, and props up the currency. In 2015, Egypt poured $8 billion into a dramatic expansion, dredging a 35-kilometer parallel channel, deepening and widening key stretches, and promising the world that Suez could handle more and bigger ships, faster than ever before. The government called it a national renaissance. For Cairo, the canal is more than infrastructure. It is leverage over global trade and a symbol of sovereignty. But the prospect of a rival canal just across the border is a nightmare scenario. If Israel's canal ever opens for business, Egypt faces the risk of losing a huge share of its shipping traffic. Some analysts warn that, in a worst-case scenario, Suez Canal revenue could be slashed by billions, potentially up to half, though no official study puts a precise number on the threat. Even the fear of such a loss is enough to trigger alarm at the highest levels of government. Egyptian officials and state media frame the Ben Gurion Canal as an economic weapon, a direct assault on the country's stability. For Egypt, the canal is not just a competitor, it is a red line. The idea that another nation could siphon away the hard currency that holds the country together is almost unthinkable. And with so much at stake, the tension does not stop at the water's edge. The question of where the canal might run next, especially near Gaza, raises the stakes even higher. Draw a line from Eilat on the Red Sea to Israel's Mediterranean coast, and it brushes right up against the Gaza Strip. That is where the canal project collides with one of the world's most densely populated and politically sensitive territories. For engineers, the shortest, most cost-effective route would hug Gaza's northern edge, or, as some unofficial diagrams suggest, cut straight through it. Avoiding Gaza means a longer, more expensive detour, curving the canal north and east, adding kilometers of rock and sand to be excavated. But there is no public record of an official blueprint demanding a Gaza crossing, no declassified Israeli memo, no engineering dossier showing billions saved by running the canal through Palestinian land. What is certain is the human reality. Over 2 million people live in Gaza. It has been governed by Hamas since 2007, and it is hemmed in by strict border controls. Any grand infrastructure vision here is not just an engineering challenge. It is a question of sovereignty, displacement, and survival. For families in Gaza, the canal is not a line on a map. It is a shadow cast over homes, livelihoods, and the future of an entire population. Washington's military planners have long worried about what happens if the Suez is ever shut again. For the US Navy, a single canal closure can strand entire carrier groups, delay reinforcements, and force ships to circle Africa. An Allied-controlled waterway across Israel would change that equation overnight, offering a second, reliable shortcut between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, one that is shielded from Egypt's politics and open to American warships at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, in Beijing, the stakes look very different. China's Belt and Road Initiative depends on the Suez Canal as a vital link between its factories and the markets of Europe. Billions have been poured into Egyptian ports and logistics hubs to secure this artery. A rival canal, built and managed by Israel with US backing, threatens to reroute trade and undermine China's influence in the region. Suddenly, a project that started as a local dream is at the heart of a global contest over who controls the world's most critical shipping lanes. The question isn't just who builds the canal, but who gets to decide how the world moves. Today, canal dreams redraw more than maps. They threaten to reshape power, borders, and lives. As global trade wars and regional tensions intensify, every new waterway carries the potential to spark conflict. The next world crisis may not come by land or air, but by sea. Share your thoughts below.